Hey guys, Russian Rider here. Back with part 2 of my ride. I cut the first one short. And in this video, I will be talking about my past. The life of Russian Rider. Basically, I just want to give you guys kind of a background. I don't think I've done this before. But talk about who I am, I guess, or where I come from. A couple people, more than a couple, quite a bit of people have asked me in my videos, and they're like, hey, where's your Russian accent? You're not Russian, you're a fake, you're a fraud. Different things like that. There's other things they've said. Basically, yeah, it's true, I don't have much of a Russian accent at all. And that is because I was 5 years old when I moved to America. I was actually born in a country called Uzbekistan. It borders Afghanistan and some other countries, I guess, but back then it was all the Soviet Union, so there was a bunch of countries, as most of you guys know, in one, and Uzbekistan is one of them. And my grandparents actually were all originally from Russia, but they moved over there to pursue like a better life. Basically, they were living in Russia, and business was hard, work was tough, and they heard about some good opportunities there, and they moved over, and they did a couple of different things, but they kind of settled on beekeeping, and that was the family business from before my mom was born all the way until I was born. So they lived there, and it was a better area to do that, so that's what they did for quite a while. I better speed up here a little bit. So one thing I like about the bike, I'll just mention it, 6th gear, slight uphill, give it a little bit of gas, you got enough torque, it just pulls, no need to downshift. So yeah, to continue, that's what my grandparents did, that's what my parents did. They were in the beekeeping business. And shortly after I was born, the Soviet Union started to fall apart, and there were quite a bit of Russians and some other nationalities that lived in Uzbekistan, along with the Uzbek people. And the Uzbek people, I guess at that time, they weren't there. It was almost kind of like an uprising. They weren't very happy to have a lot of different nationalities living there. With the Soviet Union falling apart or collapsing, they were kind of wanted it basically to go back to being mainly their nationality. And so it was really tough at that time. A lot of gangs started coming up, and they would go and they would actually burn down houses and start burning down houses, causing a bunch of trouble. There's lots of people riding out right now. There's a guy behind me on a bike as well. But yeah, basically it's almost kind of like, get out of here or we're gonna kill you. So my grandparents and my parents all packed up all their stuff. They sold their house, sold off their businesses, and they moved back to Russia. And that was in 1991. Was it? Or maybe it was actually, yeah, somewhere around there, basically. Somewhere around that time. And so that's what happened. And we moved back to Russia. And I was basically raised there. I was less than a year old when we moved back. And then all the way up until close to me being 6, I was still 5, is when we moved to America. And there was a lot of Russians moving over here at the time. They're basically refugees, those who were Christians. And I don't know if you guys knew, but in communist time, Christians were basically like persecuted in Russia. It was a complete atheist country, and if you were not atheists, if you had any kind of beliefs, they would put you to jail, they would kill people, just because you didn't agree with them, so you're wrong and that's it. It's not like it is here in America. So we moved over here. I was close to being 6, but I was still 5, and I had a little brother that was like 3-ish, close to being 4 years old, and we grew up here, so that's why I don't really have an accent. I went straight to the 1st grade. I didn't know a word of English, and my mom told me that when I came home after the first day of school, and I think we were probably here for about maybe 2 months before I had to go to school. But anyways, I came home and I'm just crying, and I said, Mom, I'm never going to go to school again. It's pretty tough, going to school for the first time. You don't know a word of English. So I guess it was tough, but about 2 years after that, I picked up the English language, I guess, very fast. So my accent was already almost gone, and I spoke English, almost as well as most of the other kids did. So that was really nice. I mean, I still don't speak perfect English. My grammar isn't perfect, I would say. I mean, there's a lot of American people that speak English at my level even worse, but I do know both languages. I can speak Russian fairly well. I can read and write, and then English as well. So sometimes the grammar kind of mixes up. But yeah, so I went straight to first grade, and then I went all the way up through school. So I was basically raised here. I love this bike. I think I'm gonna have little breaks in between my story and just me complimenting the bike. Make sure my camera's still on. Okay, so that's my young life, I guess, just a little kind of shortcut. And let me see. So I've always been, I guess, a decent worker. My father's a really, really hard worker. Back in the Soviet Union, once they moved to Russia, after the Soviet Union collapsed, it was not good. I mean, the economy was horrible. There weren't very many jobs. Jobs didn't pay well. And my dad has always been, I guess, just very good at a lot of different things. I think it's a lot of it's just because of how hard he works. But he knows electrical, plumbing, roofing. He actually did the majority of the work on the house they live in now. He only hired out on a couple different things that it just kind of made sense to hire somebody out. But he's very, very talented, and I think even more than that, he's just a really hard worker. So in Russia, he would just basically do whatever he could to make money. I mean, my parents told me there were times where, for 3 months, all we'd have was just like bread and milk and water. There was really, really bad times. And then there are other times where my dad could go and, do a roof, do tile, do something else, and they do fairly well. So it was just kind of really off and on there. But we moved here, and it's just this, people say, kind of the American dream. I guess in America you can achieve a lot if you put your mind to it, and if you can work hard. It's called the land of opportunity, and I definitely feel that way too. I feel like it is it's the land of opportunity, but it's up to you if you want to take the opportunity and you actually want to do something with it. And I definitely do. My dad, moving here, he basically got a job right away. We lived with some relatives for a little bit, and then we moved into an apartment, and he got a job. And he's actually still working at the first job that he ever got. I mean, he's moved up a little bit. He's still underpaid for what he does, but he's worked there for quite a long time. I mean, I was almost 6 when I moved here, and now I'm 23. So there's some numbers for you guys. But anyways, when we moved here, he was working really hard. He didn't know any language, went straight to work. And for about a period of about a year and a half, he would work just as much overtime as he possibly could, and he would take double shifts, come in, work on Saturday. So he was working super hard, and he's still a super hard worker. But about a year and a half, actually, sorry if I said a month and a half, a year and a half after we moved here, my parents actually purchased a home. They still own the home. It's a rental now, but my dad put in tons of overtime. He was making minimum wage, but just working a lot of overtime, and he was able to get a loan and purchase a house. So that was really amazing. It was a blessing, and kind of he definitely deserved that. He put in the work, and at the time, throughout the whole time, he slept, I think he said, an average of 3 hours a night. And that was just because he didn't want to just work 2 shifts and then come home and pass out and go to sleep. He still wanted to spend some time with my mom and his 2 sons. That's myself and my younger brother. So, I don't know. My dad's always been a very big kind of inspiration to me. I've always looked up to him. And it's just amazing kind of the sacrifices he made and how hard he worked, and he's still doing that to this day. So I always try to look up to him and keep that as a reminder for myself, to make sure that I'm working hard and supporting my family well. A lot of you guys know I have 2 children now and a wife as well. So that's kind of the beginning story. I guess I'll just move on. I never did amazing in school. I was never like the A student. I think sometimes I did okay, but in general I wasn't kind of that interested in school. I was always just more interested in what I was interested in. If I had a topic that I would like and I would enjoy and I would be interested in, I would do really well in it. But other topics, not so much. And I kind of wish that maybe I tried harder, but I didn't. So I do have a high school diploma. I didn't go to college or anything, but just throughout school I had different interests. And my dad did make a lot of money. He still is, like I said, he's underpaid for what he does. But I knew, they tried to do the best they could for me. I still had, Christmas presents and stuff. But I remember being somewhere between maybe 11 and 12 years old, and I wanted a skateboard because my friends had skateboards. And I knew if I wanted a skateboard, especially not, just like the cheapest one, I needed to go out and make some money. And I think that was the first time I really strongly started applying, maybe some entrepreneurial skills. And I went out and I got my parents' rake, going to all the different neighbors, asking them if I could rake their lawns for them. And looking back at that now, it's just, I can't imagine seeing a little 11-year-old with this tiny little high-pitched voice. I mean, I have a fairly high voice right now, but it's a little girly voice. Can I rake your yard? But it worked. I'm sure I got a lot of no's, but I got some yeses, and I ended up saving up for a fairly decent skateboard. And I ended up kind of doing that all until I was 16 years old. I would, rake yards, plant, flowers, pull weeds, shovel snow, just do whatever I could to be able to make some money, to be able to afford some of the things that I wanted. And I'm really glad I did that. I think it's a good thing to do. It helps kind of build character and helps a person not be as shy, having those kind of interactions and stuff, and just helps a person be more outgoing and more business-minded. So, and that definitely came into play fairly well for myself, I think. I'm guessing. So at the age of 16, I ended up getting a job at Jack in the Box shortly after I turned 16. I actually did I worked for a lawn service for a little bit under the table when I was 15. But at 16, I ended up getting a job at Jack in the Box, and so it was my first official paying taxes job. And at Jack in the Box, I worked there actually for 4.5 years, for quite a while. And first started at part-time, then I went to full-time. And so I actually ended up dropping out of school when I was in the beginning of 11th grade. I was not doing so well in my classes. I ended up making some bad choices, hanging out with the wrong crowds, started skipping a lot of school, and kind of my choices were drop out or keep getting in trouble. If you skip enough school, then you have to go to court, do community service, stuff like that. So I ended up actually finishing school online and still, getting my actual diploma. So I was able to work full-time, which I enjoyed working. It wasn't the most fun job. There were times that really, really sucked, and there were times that I enjoyed as well. But I worked there for that long. Another biker guy enjoying the roads. So yeah, I worked there. I didn't have much bills. I just had to pay, from the time I turned 16. Actually, I guess from the time I turned 14 is when I got a cell phone, and I paid a cell phone bill ever since I was 14. And then from 16 or 15 and a half, I guess my parents told me, if you want a car, you need to be able to pay for insurance and pay for gas. So I was like, deal. I loved cars. I mean, I still really enjoy cars. I like them. Back then, I was kind of even more just obsessed with cars. So I knew I had to get a job, be more consistent, because insurance isn't cheap when you're 16. I think even for the cheapest insurance that you were able to get, just the liability shopped around, it was $125 a month for the cheapest insurance possible, plus gas and stuff like that. So I was doing that, and I didn't have much bills, so Jack in the Box served me fine. And I worked there actually about 6 months after I got married is when I quit Jack in the Box. And I got married fairly young. You guys know I'm 23. I've been married for, the end of May is going to be 4 years. So you guys can do the math if you feel like it. But when I was engaged, when I asked my wife to marry me, I knew that I had to do something else. I mean, I had four opportunities to move up in Jack in the Box. I was already a supervisor there, but I had the chance of going into management, and I already did a lot of the management tasks. But I really didn't want to work salary and be able to have to come in at night and do all that type of stuff. And I knew I really didn't need any more money, and I knew I didn't want to stay there forever. Wow, look at that! Awesome. It's beautiful out here riding. And for those of you guys that are going to ask, this is off of the Palouse Highway, South Spokane, and this is the Palouse area. And then I took Valley Chapel Road, if you guys want to look it up or you're just curious. Ooh, house for sale. Maybe I should check that out on the way home. My goal is ultimately to be able to have a little bit of land, not to farm, but just to have a little bit more space and a little house, not too far away from the city, but not where I have neighbors, 5 feet away from me on every side. So yeah, when I proposed to my wife now, I knew I needed to step it up. So I just started really asking around what different jobs there were. Everybody that came in Jack in the Box, I'd take their word and be like, hey, what do you do? How do you like your job? What's it pay? How hard is it to get there? Do you enjoy it? All these type of questions. I wasn't too shy about it. And I ended up getting hired for pest control. We had a guy that came in to do our pest control once a month. So I got that job, and that was already, a really nice pay increase from making like 10 an hour to 14 and a half. So that really helped out. And then, once we got married, I was making $10 an hour, and I actually bought a house right before I got married. I didn't have any debt, very little bills, and I was living with my parents. So I was like, hey, maybe I should try to get a house and just rent it out while I'm living with my parents. So I ended up picking up a house, and then I ended up asking my girlfriend at the time to marry me, and I ended up just moving in. So I had a mortgage to pay. Some people might call it dumb, or not a very good move or good decision, but yeah, it was kind of tough in the beginning. I made about $1,200 a month after taxes, maybe $1,250, about there, and my mortgage, including my taxes and insurance, were $800. So it was more than one of my paychecks. I got paid every 2 weeks. And that was tough. Plus, utilities, electricity, gasoline, insurance, food. So we literally lived paycheck to paycheck, no extra spending money whatsoever. So I ended up getting the pest control job. And this is kind of where my entrepreneurial stuff kind of kicked in a little bit more. My wife, her name's Alina, she always loved photography. And so I was kind of like, well, you have a camera, you have a decent lens, how about we start doing some photography, charging, making a little bit of money since you enjoy it anyways. And we had a little bit of money that we received as gifts from our wedding. And so we ended up spending that money buying another used camera, another lens, and we started doing some photography, started doing some free weddings, and then it turned into some ultra cheap weddings, and then it turned into just cheap weddings, and then it turned into, still cheap but a little bit more weddings. And we did that for about 3.5 years before my wife ended up staying at home full time once we had our child, and it just got too difficult for her to be gone all the weekends, editing all day, every day, stuff like that. So that was a pretty good success for us. We enjoyed it, and that was just, let me see, when did we stop that? I think we stopped just over a year ago is when we stopped doing that. But we ended up, 1 year we did 27 weddings plus engagement shoots and family photo shoots, stuff like that. So I have a kind of background in photography, and actually I have a camera in my backpack right now. I'm going to hopefully take a nice photo out here. And then about 5 months after I started pest control, it took me about a month and a half to get my license. I had to do tons of studying to be able to apply pesticides. I got a call from the city of Spokane, and that was another job I applied in. That was a couple other people I talked to when they came in to get some burgers at Jack in the Box, and it was the garbage department. So basically being a garbage man. And talking to those guys, the pay was great. The hours were really good, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30. And the best thing were the benefits. They still had a really, really great benefit package, retirement, pension. Basically everything that you could possibly want. At least I would possibly want. Starting out good pay. It's a union job, and they have kind of scheduled pay increases, and going from $10 an hour up to the start was $15.59, I believe. So I got a call from the city, and I ended up taking that job. I interviewed, and they hired me, and it was kind of very hard to say to put in my 2 weeks at pest control, because the guys I worked with were fantastic. I had my own 2011 truck. Every 3 years you'd get a new truck, and I drove it home. I didn't have to pay for gas. Yeah, the job wasn't the best, but the pay was good, and I really enjoyed the people that I worked with there as well. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I've worked at the city of Spokane for about, almost 2.5 years now. I do have a CDL. I drive, and I also help out depending on what's needed. And my job, back when I was at Jack in the Box, when I heard of all the benefits and the schedule and the pay, time off, they have like sick leave and just all that stuff, I was like, wow, that is my dream job. That is what I want to do. If I get that job, I will retire. I'll work there until I retire. I don't need anything else. And so back then, I guess, from the time I was young, my mindset was, all I need is a job that pays well. I don't care what it is. I don't care if I enjoy it. As long as it pays, that's all I care about. I heard people say, just find something you like doing, find something you enjoy doing, and do that for the rest of your life. I was like, yeah, right. Who cares about that? Who cares if they enjoy what they're doing? You just want to make some good money. That's all I thought. And even starting the job, that's all I thought. And actually, it took me 2 years to get the job. From when I first started talking to the people at the department, you can only apply for the job every 2 years. There's 5 days, Monday through Friday. They accept applications, and then you put in the app, and then they call you in for a test. And then depending on how well you do in the test, they put you on a list, and depending on what number you're on the list for the next 2 years, they call for interviews. So it took me 2 years from the time I started trying to get that garbage job until the day I got hired. And I was actually 11th on the list, so it was pretty difficult to kind of get into that area, even though it doesn't seem like a good area. But here I am 2.5 years later. And what I want to say, and this is probably, I'll end shortly after this point, and I'll start another video after this topic, is my mind has changed. Probably the last year, definitely about the last year, and the last couple months, even more so, I've kind of come to realize that, I was wrong. I was really wrong about doing, not caring about what you do, just caring that, your pay is good, you have good benefits, and all that stuff. I have, and I'm counting down the days to retirement. I have 33 and a half years until I can retire. If I stay at this job, my retirement is going to be fantastic. I have a 457, which is kind of like a 401k that's matched. Pension plan, I'm putting in quite a bit into that. The benefits are fantastic at this job. The pays, it's not amazing. I know a lot of people make a ton of money, but I still have some scheduled increases for the next couple of years before I max out. But the job is good. My wife stays at home, so we do live on a single income. But I'm at this point where I don't want to be a garbage man for the rest of my life. And it's not just a garbage man. I mean, I could say, if I was in the same situation, I don't want to be a pest control guy. I don't want to be, an office worker, or I don't want to be whatever. I'm sure whichever area I would be in. I don't want to see myself doing the same thing for such a long time. And now I come to realize that it really does matter what you're doing, at least to me, in my mind. Maybe some of you guys are still in the other mindset, and I think that's just fine. But it really does matter what you're doing. I want to get up every morning, and I want to be excited to go to work. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want it to be fulfilling. And trust me when I say picking up garbage is not fulfilling. Flipping burgers at Jack in the Box is more fulfilling. You make something for somebody, you give it to them, they enjoy it, they like it. You feel a little bit more, I guess, fulfilled inside. I guess that's kind of the only word that's coming to mind right now. You feel like you did something good. Picking up garbage obviously is really needed, but I don't get a sense of enjoyment from it. I don't get a sense of fulfillment that I did something good. I never thought that this would matter to me in my life. Maybe it's because I'm married. I have a couple kids now. Maybe that's kind of changing me a little bit. But I never thought about that. So let me see what else. The last year, some of you guys may know, have seen my other channel. I've been doing a YouTube channel just under my regular name. I'll have a link in the description for you guys. And there I teach about different cameras, filmmaking gear, some photography stuff, basically stuff like that. And I basically just make videos about different things. And I've also, right now, I used to do wedding photography. The last year, just over a year, I've been doing wedding videos, so making wedding films. I've also made some business films for different people. So that is my passion. I switched over from photography when my wife decided to stay at home and not have to be gone on the weekends and be editing all the time. I switched over to filmmaking because that's more of my passion. I do enjoy photography. I'm still doing it occasionally, but that was more of kind of like, hey, we have no money whatsoever. We need to do something and be able to actually survive. So I know a lot of you guys probably, if you guys have watched my other videos, I've talked about that my life is fairly busy. I am working full-time doing this job. I serve at my church in the video department. I'm actually in charge of that. And then I do my YouTube channel, I do some weddings, I do some business films, and then I try to spend time with my family, and then friends, and enjoy my bike. So that's kind of my life right now. And the last about 6 months to a year, I guess, I've kind of more seriously thought about going full-time sometime. And I always thought, maybe I'd go full-time if everything's going really well and the money's coming in and I know 100% everything's great. But as time's going on, I keep wanting to work for myself more and more. I keep being less satisfied by the job that I work. And I guess what's making it even harder is just the schedule thing. It's just been really tough, especially with having 2 young kids and a wife at home. Really tough to be able to do my side business, do those things, and those do bring in some money, but then also work my full-time job and do everything else, and it's kind of holding me back. I want to do more, but I can't really expand my business. It's kind of limited because mainly just I don't have the time. So yeah, I guess I might just finish off this video. I'll start another one if my camera's still working here. Yeah, it is still running. So I'll talk about a big decision in my life that is coming up. You guys probably guess what that already is, but that will be in another one.